We have a guest speaker tonight. It is a dear friend of mine, Dylan. He is fantastic. And he has been in YWAM. He has amazing heart for the Lord, and he's going to share with us. Do you need help? Okay. All right, round of applause for Dylan.
Am I on? There I am. Okay. Hi, guys. I want to put you. Who graduated this week, or this year, I guess? Was there anything associated with what you wore when you graduated? Somebody can yell out.
A nightgown.
Was there special clothes? Nobody? You all just wore normal stuff? Any gowns? Anybody wear a gown?
Yes.
Okay, at least one person wore a gown. Does anybody have, like, extracurricular things that you do? Like your hobbies or those after-school things? What do you do? Rock climb. Does, do you look weird when you rock climb? Like, is there something about the way that you rock climb that you wouldn't wear this close rock climbing? You would? Okay, how about you? What's that? Do you wear special things for that? Okay. Anybody else have any sports? There's got to be somebody. What do you do, Rocky? Baseball? And what do you wear for when you do baseball? A uniform. Different. Hockey. What do you wear when you do hockey? Hockey gear. Wow. I'm not into sports, but I think I can figure that one out. What about if you were going to travel? Abby, if you were going to travel down to, say, the equator, would you bring special clothes, do you think? Like, for example, a tank top and shorts. Would you want those same tank tops and shorts if you were going to go up, say, to Kotzebue? No? So who wants something other than the same top and shorts into Kotzebue? Zeke. At least Zeke will be warm. When I flew up there with Bill, they're like, you do not fly in the Arctic without full winter gear. You just, like, it doesn't matter if the plane is heated. You bring your winter gear. So, anyway, the point is, if you see, say, Declan in his hockey gear, or Rosie in his baseball gear, or Zeke or Shan in her gown, you can kind of figure out something about what's going on with that person just by looking at them without talking to them, right? So would we agree that without telling somebody, without using any words, you can see something about where they're headed? That makes sense? You guys agree with me? Whether it's what they're wearing or what they're bringing. So my point is the way that we walk in our present moment communicates things that maybe our words don't about where we're going and where we think we're headed. Or our timeline and our destination is reflected in our behavior. What about me? What do you notice about what I'm wearing? What do you think when I put these clothes on this morning? I put on these boots. Why would you think I put these boots on? Maybe there was something, I was going to be in a wet environment, right? What about the colors I'm wearing? You're using the colors. I didn't just wear this to match with Declan and a couple of your other guys. These colors are not very noticeable out in nature, right? So maybe I was doing something wet where I didn't want to be seen. If you're thinking that if you're tracking with me, you would be right. I was hiding in the bushes. So, anyways, what about heaven? Is it important? Does it affect, like, right here, right now, where, you know, you all came from your days, you're going home, you're going to do the same thing tonight, probably as you did last night. Does heaven affect right now? Is there a difference right now because heaven is our destination? And maybe some of you are thinking, why would you ask us that? How will it affect us? younger than me. I'm 25. You guys are in your teens. Some of you just graduated. Like, you're like, heaven's a long ways away from me, right? But even right now, even when you're teenagers, the fact that heaven is your destination should shape things about your life. Jody, give me some sort of signal if I'm going to go over time. Because last time I spoke, I didn't check the clock, and I should have. But Paul says, if the dead are not raised, does anybody know the rest of that verse? If the dead are not raised? Nobody? The rest of that verse says, let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. Paul's saying, if heaven isn't the end goal, if there isn't a destination beyond this life, then do what feels good right now, because who knows when it's going to end. Like, what difference does it make? So, Paul also says, so that's on the one hand, eat and drink, tomorrow you die. Like, you see a lot of people who seem to live like this. But on the other hand, Paul says that we must all stand before the judgment seat of God and give an account for our lives. And so that sounds a little different than just eat and drink and do what feels good, right? If I believe I'm going to give an account for my life, it's not going to look like that, right? What does it look like? Like, maybe as a believer, I say, you know, God, you gave me 7 days. I'm going to give you one of them, maybe 2 some weeks. I'll give you 2 every time you give me 7. I'm going to give you a couple of those. Every time you give me $100, I'm going to give you 10 of them. Like, and God will deal with that, right? Like, that's enough giving back to Him. Or does it look like I want to follow you? I want you to be in charge. I want you to lead. If you say to give you 100 of the $100, you get to give you stuff. If you say to give you 7 of the 7 days, like, you own me. It's all yours, whatever you want. So, anybody ever get asked their 5-year plan? You guys too young for that. Anybody? Abe gets asked his 5-year plan. Thank you, Abe. What about who gets asked what you want to be when you grow up? There we go. That's the way they phrase it when they're hearing. Who kind of hates that question? Who kind of hates it when people ask you? I hated it too. And I think people ask you that because they want to prevent short-sightedness, right? But we're talking about eternity. 5 years is short-sighted. Like, what you're doing now, today, tonight, tomorrow, and this year, and as you graduate, or as you finish high school or middle school, all of this is building to eternity that goes on forever. And so we need not just like a 5-year plan, but we need to have a plan that goes all the way out. You guys understand? Jesus told us to store up our treasure in heaven, where there's no rust, there's no thieves, there's no moths. Sorry, moths. I hope there's butterflies. And Paul tells us, don't look at the things that are seen, because what's seen is temporary, but what is not seen is eternal or permanent. And so, if your plans and what you want to be and where you want to go and all that stuff is all based on what's seen, then it's all stuff that ultimately isn't going to last. Jesus says in Revelation, behold, I'm coming quickly, and my reward is with me to give to each person according to their deed. And so, a lot of us have this idea like we're saved and that's that, kind of the end of the story. But Jesus says, I'm going to reward people based off what's appropriate. And so, he also says, hold fast to what you have so that nobody will take your reward. Jesus is saying, man, this is going to be worth it. Keep your orientation on that goal, on that prize. Paul said, look at an athlete. When I was in Wyoming, one of my teammates was MVP for Norway's international volleyball team. He did more sports in an hour than I've done in my life. And like, he was in 10th. He told me, I know I'm not more skilled than the other guys on the team, but I can work harder than them.
And so when they go to practice in the morning and at night, I go to practice before practice in the morning, and I go to practice after practice at night. When they take the weekend off, I do 2 more practices every day of the weekend. He's like, so that way I'm working, practicing at least twice as much, maybe 3 times as much as the other guys. So I'm going to be, like, that goal, look at the effect that that had on his life because he's going for the prize, right? And so Paul says, if even a worldly athlete that's aimed for a worldly prize can have that level of influence from that goal, can impact their life that much, how much more for me when I'm going for something that's going to last forever, when I'm going to go for something that's important. And so Paul says, I'm running this race, not like somebody who doesn't run know where they're going, you know, little kids. Paul's like, no, I got a destination, I'm going straight for that destination. I'm not boxing like a guy who's boxing the air. Paul says, I'm actually boxing myself so that I can get that high goal, that forever award. So there's no participation awards in heaven. But man, you guys can go for both. Like, you're not at the back of the pack right now. There's not people out in front of you that you can't overtake. Like, you guys can set your heart and your mind and choose, like, I'm going to get that goal. I'm going to be like Paul. If I have to box with myself, I'm not going to get derailed from the race. I'm not going to take detours. I'm going for it. There's a quote, this life is a dressing room for eternity. And I've thought about this a lot for the last couple of years. And so my question to you guys is, what are you putting on? This life is where you're putting on your clothes for eternity. What are you going to be wearing? Can people see where you think you're going to be by the way that you're walking? Is your destination reflected in your behavior? So, salvation is a free gift of God, right? There's nothing that we can do to earn it or disqualify ourselves. But there is still an appropriate response to the gospel. Jesus said to everyone who's been given much, much will be required from them. And you guys are all really special, but if you still are just special when you're 80 years old, that's going to be really sad. You got to do something with your special. What's your special going to be? What are you going to make that into? There's another story where Jesus heals these 10 lepers, and one turns back to praise him. Are we like those other 9 who are like, yes, thanks Jesus, pretty cool, that whole cross thing that you did makes me feel a lot better inside, I'm going to be over here doing my thing? Or are we the one that turns back and says, man, you changed everything, you're worth everything. Every response that I can give you, I want to give you. So is our life like these, like the 9 lepers, or the one? Do we echo the cry of the saints and say, worthy are you, Lord? For you were slaughtered for us, and you purchased with your own blood people from every tribe and language and people and nation. There's a much younger quote that says, let it not be said of me that I withheld anything from you. And another one says, when I see your face, I wish I'd given more away. And that's what living in light of eternity is like. There's going to be a day where I stand and I say, this is what I did with my life. And I don't want to have regret in that moment. I don't want you guys to have regret in that moment. I listened to a sermon a lot of times over and over. And in it, the preacher, he shouts. I don't want to get it wrong. He's speaking as God. He's speaking about our worth. And God said, I gave my son for you, my precious son, whom I love. I gave my son's blood for you. You are worth the world to me. And that has echoed in my mind. And I listened to this sermon over and over, and that echoes in my mind. And one time, as I heard that echo again, it came with this little whisper. You know that you are worth my world to me. But am I worth your world to you? And I just broke. I cried and cried and cried because my life did not look like he was worth my world to me. It looked like, yeah, thanks for that. I want this too. And so, yeah, that's what I have to say.